beginning of a week, the last week for the month of August 2017. Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM. Yes, and indeed, this is the voice of the people. Citizens Forum this morning. Of course, the need to keep Nigeria united and at peace. So many people will agree is sacrosanct. It's a task everybody must key into. And it is often said there is this adage that says a silent tongue will not put the owner into trouble. That means if we have people whose tongues are responsible, then there will be less crisis. And sometimes the Yorubas also say the tongue is sharper to be than the knife itself. In recent times, you will agree with me, at least from 1999 till date, this country has never been this divided along different groups, religious, ethnic, and otherwise. And this is as a result of many of the pronunciations, statements offered by the so-called leaders most times really, Toby, that's the funny aspect of it. Not even from some of us who are the followers, but the leaders are the ones who most times initiate this divisive statement. And the advent or the event of the social media and different millennium communication system has also not helped matters, where technology has helped people to match, for instance, my photograph with that one, with the person I've never seen before. So it becomes important that the government of this country should begin to deal with that hate speech, they say it, and maybe the vice president on that occasion, acting president, draw the anger of some Nigerians when he said hate speech would now be criminalized, and so many questions came up. How do you identify hate speech, Toby? Who defines it? When did it become an offense? And then what about the different, for instance, the libel law provided for in the Nigerian constitution? How, where will those laws now stand? And then the military involvement too in criminalizing hate speech. You know, the defense headquarters told us they were going to begin to monitor things. So Nigerians were quick to say, are we going back to the military era where human right and freedom of speech is no longer free or is now punishable? We have two able Nigerians online to look at that. After that, we'll come to the studio. We also have a resource person in the studio. First, it's our pleasure to have Mr. Shehu Garba online.
Yes, well, I'm Garba Shehu, as the senior special assistant to Mr. President on media and publicity. You're welcome to the Daybreak Show, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good
All
morning.
right. And we also have Colonel Ademola Lawal, a retired colonel of the Nigerian Army, and of course, a security expert. Thank you for joining us, Colonel Lawal.
Thank you very much, and pleased to meet Madam Shehu Garba. We've been together for some time. We worked together with him during the Abaka campaign organization in 2007. So I welcome him and pleased to hear from him this morning.
All right, thank you. Madam Garba Shehu, let's start with you. Right now, there are ethnic agitations from the from the southeast. You also have militancy also rearing their head once again. Militants actually rearing their head once again in the south. You have quick notices coming from the coalition of Arewa youth in the north, and this has created a lot of tension, coupled with the fact that hate speeches and so many divisive comments have been on the social media for a long time. This surely is a headache for the presidency. How do you intend to calm all frayed nerves, unite the country, and of course, separate the wheat from the chaff, talking about his speeches?
But thank you for this opportunity. And I want to say that the problem of hate speeches is not just a problem for the presidency, it is a problem for all Nigerians, because anyone familiar with country's history, would obviously know people who are old enough to have lived through the early history of this country. They know that yes, tribalism was a big problem from the beginning, but because of the vision of our own leaders, I think that substantially by the end of the 1960s, Nigerians were convinced that tribalism had been overcome substantially so because Nigerians accepted largely the basic humanity of one another, irrespective of whether we are this ethnic group or that ethnic group. And I haven't done a study on this, but the sense I have, and I believe do, is that the freedom Nigerians have now enjoyed with the usage of particularly the social media platforms has inadvertently given, manifestation, has given avenues for the expression of divisive ethnic and, cleavages. So that tribalism that most people thought had been defeated in the country is back all over again. Now, it is bad for the country, as you have expressed yourself, given all of these agitations that are coming. They are sufficiently stabilizing and disturbing that the government feels concerned. As you said, the acting president had declared it act of terrorism. And I know that laws are being drafted in order that hate speech is punished in the country.
Colonel Lawal, where the worries came up for some Nigerian is tagging hate speech an act of terrorism. When Nigerians came to know terrorism, it is synonymous with heavy criminal violence, almost in the magnitude or manner of a war. Having served in the Nigerian army, what manner of speech can somebody now tag or label or place side by side with terrorism?
Well, thank you very much. When you say terrorism, it means violent extremism. That is the other phrase for it. Terrorism is violent extremism. But we also know that terrorism is preceded by certain things. Hate speeches, particularly, started out for this question of advancing from violent extremism to terrorism. So yes, I quite agree. And if you look at some, empirical events in some of these countries like Rwanda and Kenya, terrorism begins with really hate speeches. We are good to that. We belong to a different stock and we belong to another stock. And let me say that it is politicians that actually, generate this hate speech because they are beginning to play politics of identity. Politics of identity, not politics of ideas. When people begin to say my ethnic group is better than yours and I'm entitled to this more than you, that is politics of identity, and that is the question. I believe that it is this politics of identity that drives people into hate speeches and ends up with terrorism. I must say that the Vice President is worried, and the language he has used conveys the message that look, it has gotten to a level that we cannot tolerate anymore, and therefore it becomes an act of terrorism. But I think it's more of a wake-up call to everybody to bring down this level of hate speeches and hitting the polity with all kind of irresponsible language, and that's what it is. And I believe that it's possible, but to ask for the question of definition of hate speech is really, really difficult. But the legislation might lay parameters as well as limit the freedom of speech by way of saying if you do this, you have crossed the bar, you have crossed the line, and something must be done about you if you cross the line. And I agree with that. Except that it's really difficult to define
Colonel Lawal said, defining hate speech is a difficult thing. How will you react to those who believe that this is an opportunity for the politicians or party in government to deal with fierce criticism from the opposition politicians?
I think those who say that they're expressing unnecessary fears because, as a common proverb says, if you enter the kitchen, you know that there must be heat, and unless you can't stand it, you must get out. Criticism goes with the church. A politician, especially one who runs for office and takes it, cannot now say that they are alien to criticism. Criticism is it goes with the territory. So therefore, I think that people are expressing unnecessary fear.
Okay, now
This administration has shown a huge amount of tolerance. As I speak to you now, you know that there is not one media house that has been closed down. There is not one Nigerian journalist kept in detention by military or police or secret service on the orders of the Nigerian presidency. So therefore, this fear is totally unfounded.
all right. Hold on, Madam Garba Shehu. Colonel Lawal. Yeah, you've heard Madam Garba Shehu. A lot of people are of the opinion that this move to control or censor the social media and of course the expression of so many people, no matter how politically inclined they may be, in the bid to curb hate speeches, is going the way of the likes of Russia, North Korea, and China, who of course take very, very strict measures to censor what their citizens say, and of course on social media. When you draw these comparisons, are you worried about the corporate resistance of Nigeria and what exactly we are actually moving into?
Well, let me first of all say that when you make laws, it is not for the good king. The good king might live and the bad king might come in. Therefore, you make laws for all purposes. I agree with Malam Shehu that yes, this government has not been terrorizing or make undue arrest and all that. That's quite interesting and quite good enough. But when you make laws, it's for all purposes, and another regime may come and take advantage of it and begin to use it irresponsibly. So to that extent, one needs to get worried about the extent of limitations that the laws may impose. But having said that, I think we will be taken too extreme, and I don't agree that there will ever be any situation in this country where we will reach the level of North Korea, China, and Russia as it is. But I don't think so. This country is more vibrant. This country is more, responsible with people who are prepared to defend, their freedom. I don't think it can get to that endemic level of those countries you have mentioned. Far from it. Well, I agree that there should be limits to this question of irresponsible social media going on. But the question and the challenge all of us have, and I believe the civil society, including you, the leaders, and all the rest of them, should be able to contribute positively to this debate as to what level can we reach, what measures can we take to limit all these hate speeches and things that hit the polity. I think that's what we should really be looking at for all of us to contribute to the debate, particularly the civil society, to ensure that yes, we think there's the need for us to control the hate speech. But how do we go about it? What limit can we impose so that we do not go beyond just the because don't forget, like somebody said in the National Assembly, that yes, we should collectively sanction free speech, but we also collectively save free speech. So
Okay. Moving it from that, Colonel Lawal, is it not on the extreme, or like some people will say, using a sledgehammer to kill the fly when you ask the military to get involved in controlling what people say or the expression from people?
No. The military is should be far away from it. The military has no business in
Same question for you. Do you think it's wise? Are we not going by the stream? If we have just like the DHQ wants to get involved in the control, is that not going through the extreme?
Well, let me first of all say to you that I respect the colonel. Apparently, has a lot of depth in all of these matters. But we must address the other issue raised, which is trying to group Nigeria with China and North Korea. And look, the option for Nigeria is, would people be saying that then we sit down and nothing be done so that we become Rwanda? I have visited Rwanda and I said I have seen the scale of killings. Do we want to go there? Let me tell you, the whole world is restless about extremism and we call it hate speech here. In Europe, America, and so on, the citizens don't even need to go to Syria or Lebanon or Syria, Iraq or Libya to become extremists, Islamic extremists, suicide bombers, and so on. It's learned online now. Everybody is concerned about excesses. Germany doing a law, United States of America, UK, they are finding technology companies, Yahoo, one of these things. So therefore, everyone is rising to the challenge posed by excess. In our own case, yes, it is tribalism. In other places, it is Islamic terrorism. Terrorism. In America today, you see they are fighting the president for supporting white extremism and anti-Jewish sentiment. So it's a problem all over the world. And please, Nigerians should not panic. The whole world is coming to grips with the fact that there is a huge monster. Nobody is attacking free speech. In all of the freedoms that we enjoy, under our constitution, under civilized constitutions, your freedom ends where the freedom of the next person begins. You don't encroach on the freedom of other people and say that they are going to enjoy free law. There is a limit to it. Even existing laws don't permit that kind of access. So, should the military be involved? Look, we are even contemplating a law for this thing. There is no draft before the National Assembly. Unless there is a law, people will not start talking about who is doing this, who is doing that.
But Malagaba, maybe I should ask you, because I know we have the libel law or laws in the Constitution. What exactly is your definition, or how do you identify hate speech?
Well, what it means, in my own layman's view, is that hate speech goes over and above what libel and defamation laws are dealing with in this country. Because it is strange. You have seen people asking that people should be killed. And then they just thinking they're doing the right thing. Our laws under the libel and defamation can punish people for insulting, for denigrating you, for lowering you in the esteem of reasonable people in the country. What do the laws do then? What should they do? When somebody, a local government chairman, goes to the radio and he says people should be killed on the basis of their ethnicity. Or people should migrate, should not live here, or have no right to peaceful settlement in this community because they belong to this or that ethnic group. This is totally strange and unacceptable. No reasonable opinion.
Madam Garba Shehu, before we let you go, the norm or the saying goes that the best way to kill a bad idea is to introduce another good idea. Now, extremism, hate speeches, terrorism is on the increase in Nigeria, coupled with criminality of different kinds. Now, what exactly is the presidency doing, the federal government doing, trying to introduce to begin to reorientate Nigerians, to begin to disabuse their minds so that they can begin to get away from this criminal mindset that the world has so much as accepted Nigerians to be?
Well, in addition to the laws, there is a lot of work that is going on now, reorientating Nigerians. The National Orientation Agency has embarked on several schemes. The Nigerian military is engaged in
thank you so much, the two gentlemen. Colonel Ademola Lawal, we thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
And Malam Shehu Garba, despite your tight schedule, we appreciate you for being on the Daybreak Show, Rock City 101.9 FM, Abeokuta.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
All right, we're back in the studio. Yes, hate speech. How do we identify it? Is it an opportunity for the government or party in control to deal with opposition, extreme terrorism, or terrorism on its way through hate speech? Rwanda and other countries being compared to what hate speech can do in Nigeria if we permit it. Those were the voices of Shehu Garba, Madam Shehu Garba, the special advisor, special assistant,
Senior
special assistant to Mr. President on media, and of course a security expert, retired Army Colonel Ademola Lawal. Well, in the studio, it's another senior citizen, public commentator, of course, one of those who may eventually be saddled with the responsibility of picking out hate speeches, either as an individual or as a corporate media entity. It's a pleasure to have with us Eddie Aina in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Tobi and Dele, and hello out there.
All right, Eddie Aina,
Yeah.
let's go straight to it. What's your opinion about the defense of Madam Garba Shehu, and of course the comments made by Colonel Lawal?
Well, I want to believe that both of them actually spoke on behalf of government, and that presupposes that for me, government is not appreciating the enormity of the problems on the ground. It's like hiding behind a finger, or like an ostrich, buried its head, in the sand, leaving its flank, open. Because three key things, normally happen when you have hate speeches. Is either one, the times are hard, the economy is not good, there is recession all over the country, and if you look at the people who are mostly affected, these are the youths. 60% of youths have no job. In fact, according to the MBS statistics, 45% of Nigerians are either unemployed or underemployed. That's one strand of it. Another angle to it, is the fact that the times are hard. Two, the political situation does not give room, for a peaceful coexistence, like they are preaching. Yes, we must be at peace. The situation is very, very dire. There's no doubt about that. But we have to look at the underpinnings of why we have the situation what we have now. And this is not the first time we are, having this type of thing. Well, people tend to blame the Kano, Led Ipo, or the Shetima. No. Before that time, before these people, they are only exacerbating it. It has happened before. Go to Ogoniland. You had the Adakaboro insurgents, which was quelled. You had in the Niger Delta, you had the Tompolos, the Asari Okubos, and all the rest of them. Go and listen to their speech anytime they had the opportunity of talking to people about the plight of their people. In the Niger Delta, they have no agric, no ecosystem, they cannot fish, and the place is dilapidated. In fact, despite the fact that government voted about $200 billion or whatever, nothing has happened today. So, if we want to stop hate speech, for me, I think the government should do more than they're doing now. So, in other words, look at what is causing it and try to abate it. It started with IPOB, yes, although people are likely to argue that Kanu had no case because when JJ was in power, they enjoyed all the perks of office, they had ministerial position and what have you. But the fact remains that there's inequality, there's disproportionate apportionment of the resources of this country, and people are not happy. Different ethnic groups are not happy. There is no doubt about that, and that is the reason why this thing has heightened. So you can't impose what people call laws, or what because the government is saying, yes, it's terrorism. Well, all over the world, you cannot define it, because it depends on the degree of tolerance. If you take the United States, for instance, they have the First Amendment. There's no doubt about that. That's akin to our own freedom of press here. But in the US, the level of tolerance is, in fact, all these hate speeches or what have you, for them, it's just, it doesn't make any difference to them. They believe that you must have your right to talk. You must have your right, to publish anything you want to do. But the other persons too, have the right to do whatever they want to do.
Do you then think this government is becoming intolerant?
Yeah, yes.
Criticism.
Well, in fact, I would think that it borders on intolerance, because where do you want to start? Even if you go to social media, the digital platform, it's how do you control the digital platform? Yes, although Dele said, alluded to the fact that China, Russia, and some other countries, have introduced it. But to what extent has it worked? And these countries, look at the antecedents. These are totalitarian regimes. We are not a totalitarian regime. We are not under military. So I believe that, yes, you can appeal to people. You can appeal to people's conscience. You can talk to elders, to talk to people, but not, going through laws. Well, two people are affected in this matter. Well, the people who, are spinning out hate speeches, and the journalists and the media houses. So how do you deal with this group? Using laws. The laws are there already. And I want to believe that, in fairness to the mass media, yes, some people are complicit. There's no doubt in the fact we have over 600 radio and television, public and private, in this country. And some people who have the licenses didn't engage qualified, experienced people, unlike what you have here. People who know their onions. And so, what do you have? People who cannot call, who cannot moderate effectively, especially live programs. But largely, I think the press has done very well, because they are trying, unlike what happened in Kenya that Dele alluded to. Yes, Kenya, yes, Rwanda, but certain situations led to that Rwanda and Kenya. Don't forget that, just like us in Nigeria, where we are multi-ethnic, multi-religious, in Kenya too, they are multi. In fact, there are 70 tribes in Kenya, or ethnic groups in Kenya. In Rwanda, you have the Hutus, you have the Tutsis, you have the Twa. And there is lopsidedness, because the Hutus are 85%, the Tutsis are 7%, and the Twa are 1%. And so there is, when you talk of policies, you are talking of authoritative allocation of resources. And so when resources are lopsided, people are bound to fight. So the same situation we have in Nigeria. And I think what government should do is not to go to the extreme of saying, yes, we want to, criminalize this and terrorize. I don't think so.
So, Mr. Eddie, part of the responsibility of any government, including that of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is to ensure that all its citizens live in peace. There's orderliness, like you said, and then there's no breakdown of law and order. The way this hate speech thing and those who are moving it are going, that is exactly what they are doing, turning themselves into a separate government. Do you think any responsible government should not also move, and then, to use the word, crush them if necessary?
Well, the word crush, is undemocratic. That's the way I look at it. There are ways you can call people to order. For instance, the people who have actually led us into this are the elders of these people spinning out hate speeches. When IPOD started, when Kano started, if some elders there have spoken to him, have called him to order, elders who saw the war between 1967 and 1970, have called him to order, gentlemen, let's take it easy. Because all like I normally say, there is Biafra in all of us. The Southwest is aggrieved, the North is, the South is aggrieved, the South is aggrieved. So if the elders have called him to order, you wouldn't get to where. Yesterday, Nwodo, the Ohanese man, I was shocked when the man said, threatened that if Kano is picked up again, there will be something. What will happen? The man has, in fact, he has beaten all the laws, that they gave him, the bail conditions. He has beaten it. He has even constituted the secret.
So if nothing is done, does that not portray this country as a lawless country? That's an affront.
Then I identify those who are posing this threat, to government, not people who use digital media, for information gathering and whatever. No, not government has to do something. There's no doubt about that. But I'm of the opinion that Kanu should have been picked up longer than now, not going through the courts, and identify even Shetima. By the time, although people are arguing that the Shetima reaction is a reaction to the decisionist thing, yes, I agree. But if Kanu had been brought to book and the Shetima had been brought to book, it will have abated. But you allow the thing to drag on and drag on and drag on until they are becoming uncontrollable. Yes, government must do something, but let us be proactive. Government must be proactive. Then two, government must do the right thing at the right time. People have agitation, and that's the reason why I appreciated the acting president when he was acting. He went around all those ethnic groups. He went to Niger Delta several times. He spoke to them. He assured them. Even in Niger Delta, he assured them that they're going to build modular refineries, and absorb all these boys, who steal oil and what have you. He assured them. He went to Buniland and assured them that they're going to clean the place, and spoke to people who had problems. I think we should continue in that line. Well, if government wants to impose strict laws, to against free speech, that's the way I look at it. I'm not sure it's going to work. I want to believe it's not going to work.
Okay.
It will only work when the mass media, apply strictly the code of broadcasting, or the Nigerian press, alongside the NUJ 8-point agenda, write the truth, speak the facts, no gratification and what have you. If we depend on the media strictly to that, I'm not sure the media will have any problem.
There's just one route or one way, or maybe two, by which these hate speech propagators get to the public.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, it's through the media.
Yeah.
Either by the conventional media,
or digital media.
the digital media in which we are seeing. If that is so, do you think an attempt to now deal with this will not result into an attempt to also muzzle the media?
Well, the way we are going now, there will be censorship. There will be censorship of the media. If the government, goes that way fully, they will muzzle the media. There's no doubt about that, because you will not be afraid as to what you write, as to what stories you pick. Although who you interview. Although I quite agree with you with government that in our practice we have responsibility, because the media is the conscience of the nation. Yes, who said this, what and under what circumstances? We must ask too, under what context is he saying that? Because there are some politicians, they just seize the opportunity of the media to rattle and rant and talk all kinds of things against people. And unfortunately, because of the rapidity of news and the fact that we cannot really sit down and sort out issues, you want to get your news out on time, it's a bit difficult, for the media not to carry some of this. But if we separate these guys, especially those who don't even have any value, like back to the US again, look at Terry Jones. I mean, the Quran burning pastor. This was somebody who was unknown, relatively unknown to anybody. But because of what he did, he became an instant celebrity all over the world. He became an icon. So the media must stop such people.
Now, Eddie Aina, one trend, I don't know that you must have noticed, is that you see so many online news media, and you begin to wonder, how do we control the cyberspace? How do we control that media space? That what goes on social media, WhatsApp groups, Facebook, BBM, Twitter is not replicated by this so-called how do you tag this online media news medium?
Well, I think first and foremost is we must we must address the problem from source.
Yes.
And that's what Facebook has done, for instance. Facebook is now saying they will appoint people who will check Hawks News and put the original story and the findings. They will get fact checkers, all over the world. If you post any hoax news, Facebook is saying yes, we're going to do, and I think it's a good thing, because some people just they are happy, about bringing people down. They are happy bringing people down, putting all sorts of stories in the social media, maybe because of personal grudges with people. So I think that's one way to go, and I think WhatsApp and others, should do the same. Because it is online media, and that's the reason why before we put them there, we must look at experience. If you look at the mass media in this country, especially stations or newspapers who have experienced proprietors, and operators, they perform better. There were even during the elections, the documentary that was brought out against PMB. It went to one station that said, no, I cannot take this. In fact, about 2, 3 stations, but another station took it. And so you begin to wonder, do they have editors there? Do they have producers there? Did they, preview it? These are the canons of it. So I would think that before anybody, is granted whatever permission to go online, even by the telecoms company, they must scrutinize, they must check the person. Does he have the experience? Does he imbibe professionalism? Well, it's professionalism that is causing all this. If we insist on professionalism, just like we insist with regards to mainstream media, where you have the code. For instance, I know that no radio station worth its salt, will, for instance, just put anything on air that will work against the unity of this country. No radio station will do it. No television station what a song will do it, because the code says no broadcaster should broadcast anything that will work against the unity of this country.
All right, we have to take this break to allow the national news attend to come up. After that, yes, we'll still have Mr. Eddie Aina with us. We are looking at hate speech, attempt to criminalize it. What exactly is hate speech, and how do we achieve that criminalizing hate speech? Don't go anywhere.
Together in peace and unity. That's a wonderful song from Kush, talking about peace and unity. It is another welcome you once again to the second half of Citizens Forum this beautiful morning. We are looking at hate speeches and how to curb it, and the move by the presidency to come up with a law that will actually address this growing situation. Of course, you have the Nigerian army also saying that they are monitoring anti-government and anti-military governments that could actually cause more harm than good on social media. We earlier spoke or interviewed the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Media and Publicity, Madam Garba Shehu, and Colonel Ademola Lawal, the retired colonel of the Nigerian Army. We also have in the studio a veteran journalist, media practitioner, and social commentator, Eddie Aina. Eddie, one good thing we have is that we have the regulator, we have the NBC, we have other government agencies like the NOA, and that is actually regulating and making sure that rules are followed, ethics of the profession are also followed to the letter. But when you look at these regulators, are they really carrying out this responsibility diligently?
Well, you've identified 3. Okay, let's begin with those regulating broadcasting. But I want to believe that there are enough laws, to guide broadcasting generally, talking about religious broadcasts, talking about programming, news, coverage of elections and what have you. I want to believe that the laws are there. The problem with our practitioners is that even some stations don't even have the National Broadcasting Code, and I think that's a problem. So they don't read the code, and at times, because of the proliferation of radio stations and television in the country, the good hands have left, and so you have most stations hiring greenhorns. For instance, sometimes I was in Abuja, and I listened to this station. In that station, Tobi will say, okay, this is how I entered broadcasting. Share, here we say, this is how I entered broadcasting, and I've enjoyed it, I've done this, that. And this lady came on here and said, yes, I was a disc jockey, and I like to do news, and I just went into news. You can imagine a disc jockey, DJ. What does she know about broadcast? If this type of situation happens, how does he correct people on air? How does he monitor? How does he manage live program? That's part of the problem we have. Then with regards to NUJ, because we have to come out hard on ourselves too, the NUJ does not correct its members, because you have many people in the union who do not belong in there. I mean, they do all kinds of things, that run contrary to the ethics of the profession. That's as far as the NUJ is concerned. But generally, there is the Nigerian Press Council. Up to tomorrow, the journalists in this country, especially NPAN, have not agreed that the that body should punish erring journalists. If I report Tobi, that he did something against me, they will not do anything. They don't have the power, they don't have the muscle, they don't have that authority to punish erring journalists up till tomorrow, because Nigerian Proprietors Association, Newspaper Proprietors Association have not agreed. They believe it's sponsorship, that is you want to punish journalists. So that's part of it. But generally, I want to believe that if government, for instance, talks to NPAN, talks to NBC, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, that's an amalgam of broadcast stations in the country, they can talk to each other. Because it has to be done through dialogue, discourse. Let us discuss. These are the problems of government. But if you want to go the way of criminalizing it, well, I want to see how they want to go about it. You see, don't forget, in former Russia went down because the laws were stricter. But there was this Free Radio Europe that was beaming to Russia, and at that point in time there were satellites. So Russians were tuning to satellites, and they believed that so freedom is good, and so it went. So I think government would not want to drive people underground, because there are ways people will still continue to use this medium in so many ways. People have a way of dodging things. So I want to believe that the laws are there. Let professionals strict to the laws, and let government talk to the agencies that require to bring this hate speech to a minimum.
Now, one thing is that the federal government has now empowered, even though that power has been there, but they have now given them more power. Talking about NBC, to sanction and fine any radio TV station who carry out who airs interview-based programs like ours, all right, and who accommodates people who engage in hate speeches. Now, how do you think the public will react to this?
Well, there can be more power still through means. It's either through the National Assembly if the bill is reviewed, the NBC Act is reviewed. Then the second one is through the code. The code has been packaged in Kano, so it's there, it's ready. But ordinarily, there are sanctions for hate speeches. There are sanctions. But what people are saying is, and we have had instances during the election, a sanction of 1 million naira, a station that are taking 5 million naira to put a documentary on there, we just say, okay, I'll put it on there. Is it not only 1 million naira? I'll pay it and I'll still make my gain. So that was the argument in Abuja, that NBC should heighten the cost, although NBC has that administrative power to heighten the cost, to take it to 10 million or what have you. But I think beyond fines and sanctions and what have you, the stations themselves, the practitioners, should stay by the rules, especially with regards to hate speeches. Because if you look at the examples cited, hate speech had done enough damage, to so many clients.
Let me say that now. With these steps our government is taking, as some people have said, it just shows lack of maturity. That even the so-called democracy we are talking about, we are not practicing it the way we are not growing. For instance, the United Kingdom had a near similar situation in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s when the IRA, Irish Popular, what the British government did through the public, we know how effective the BBC was. They didn't say the BBC or any broadcast media should not carry story of somebody like Jerry Adams, the leader of the military wing, and then Martin McGuinness, the leader of the political wing of the area. What they did was to say, do not show their faces directly, and then their voices must be rebroadcast. So, which means they still gave both Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness and Diary the opportunity to say their own view because they know they represent a particular people. It was not a total blackout on those things. So, if we say the media, the punishment for the media should be heightened.
Yeah.
Or, for instance, we stop any Nigerian reporter or press from interviewing Nnamdi Kanu or Tompolo or whatever. Are we not going reverse gear with the other part of the world?
Yes, we are going reverse gear, because these people too must be heard. I think what Britain did, through BBC, is to allow them to record and edit. You edit out those portions, that are likely to incite violence. And I think that is what we should do. That's the reason why I said we should talk to ourselves, we should talk to the media, and let the media give you, options as to how to abate hate speeches. Because, well, you can imagine in Britain, for instance, the way they would do it. In fact, in the US, it's even worse. For instance, those who organize the Ku Klux Klan, are the ultra whites, and the supremacists, they are even arguing that hate speech should be under free speech. That the First Amendment should cover it. Those are claims, where they have seen things and they know the implications of, gagging in quotes, the press. I think we should go the way of these claims, civilized claims. Let's not go through it through the hard way. Because if you go through the hard way, like for instance, if you pick stations and you bring stations down, although I know many stations will now be afraid, to carry so many to interview people, which is not good, for democracy. Because some people's views must be heard. All over the world, free speech, freedom of speech, First Amendment, it allows, that's the first law that emboldens any individual to have freedom of movement, association, and to actualize yourself. But if you now say you cannot, there are certain things you can say, is government going to give us the list of what you can talk about? Because the times are here, the times are hard, and people will react to the time, whatever anybody does. After all, despite the police or whatever, people still demonstrate. So it will happen. I think government should tone it down.
All right, yes, sir. Government should tone it down. That's coming from Eddie Aina, our guest veteran journalist, media manager, and a public analyst. Daybreak Show, Rock City 101.9 FM. This morning, hate speech is at the attempt by the federal government of Nigeria to criminalize it. Even the military, through the defense, has said they will begin to monitor your post, pictures, whatever it is, on the different social media. So, I'm sure when the military comes to, it's not going to be a knock on your door. It's a breakdown of your door.
I tell you.
So it's a breakdown of your door, not a knock on your door. All right, earlier on we also spoke with Madam Shehu Garba, Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Media, and Colonel Lawal, Ademola Lawal, retired. Colonel Lawal actually hold a PhD in public peace and strategy. Yes, let's get your own thought, question, comment on any of the voices you've heard or statements dropped by these people.
Good morning, Chief Eddie Aina.
My brother.
Don't come is my name.
Good to see you.
I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, sure.
Yes, I listen to you, sir, but I have some disagreement. You are comparing Ogoni's struggle, IPOP, as a reason, one of the reasons for hate speech. Sir, you are trivializing it. Hate speech is not a Nigerian phenomenon, it's not Ogoni. In fact, it's a worldwide phenomenon. So it couldn't have been the Ogoni in the US. Because, so we cannot. And even people are doing the hate speech are not from Ogoni land. People in the West, people in the intelligentsia. I know that the people who are very rich, it's not the poor people who are doing hate speech. So let not say that. You see, we may not be able to define it, but I have seen the pogrom, the pictures. My father gave it to me. And every time I look at it, I don't mind my freedom being abridged. I don't want such to happen in this country. What is hate? What is hate with speech, free speech? Nobody has free speech. Why don't you use the F word in radio because you are free? The F word, FCCK. don't want to offend sentiment. That is why we don't use it. And we have to be very, very careful how we use it. In China, people claim that in China is the winner to be in China. How come all our businessmen are going to China to these people where there's no free speech? How come all of us want to go to China? Our children are going to China to learn. What are we talking of? If that needs to be done, it has to be done. I believe that the social media should be shut down. I believe it because we are going too far. With the type of things, people are being maligned, people are being defamed, they are creating problems.
Sorry, Dr. Uncle, outright shut down, Dr. Uncle.
Where people are working in song. So, social media, we want that. Is that free speech? No.
All right.
Not.
Okay.
We should come out and say no.
Thank you. Thank you. My question to Dr. Uncle is, are you advocating for an outright shutdown or a control? Morning. Good morning, sir.
Hello, yes.
You need to speak up, please.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, you
we'll
can.
manage it.
Yeah, you see, I want you to understand that our guests also think that this station all over. It's included that many people saying the thing that we are against now. Like I want to go to Mr. Dele, to tell him that I'm master of the people that believe in rock city, black monkey, is among them. All who want to understand that for government not to deliver what they promise, make it to be so. We should try to understand where we are going. And really now, we are not Indian military regime, we are civilian regime. One must use army for those who are doing all these things. Is it by force? So that is my question this morning.
All right, thank you. Yes, morning, you are on.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir, good morning.
My name is Abdul Falam Nikum, speaking from Abdullah.
All right, thank you. Your 2 minutes is counting.
Once in a while, I used to laugh. Because when you're talking about species, it doesn't start now. And I think the best approach and the best way to deal with it is to be defined. When you are saying the military should start dealing with that as a terrorist, that is it. When the military starts to involve in democracy, I don't know, that shows that these are my questions to the democracy of Nigeria, and that will not be taken. Best thing to handle it. No matter the law, let me tell you, it will not do anything. Because impunity has been in existence for so long, and it will continue. If some people are doing some things, constitutionally, there are some provisions that take care of that. Why can't you apply that? Do you wait? You are looking, so it continue and it continue. The next thing that you want to stop the system of Nigeria from expressing their mind. No citizen, no person in this nation we want this to break down or we want to cause war or whatever. When an issue arrives, go to the root. What is the problem? How can we deal with the issue? So saying you want to come with, I don't even know the law they want to do. If any law is compliant with the constitution, it's going to break or bend. And there's still, there's still power to stop any law that's going to come into the aggression of the freedom of the system of Nigeria.
Thank you.
So I'm not confused, I'm not scared, I'm just mad.
Thank you. Hello? No. You want to react?
Yes, well, let me thank my brother, Dr. Nkom, and assure him that I didn't trivialize anything. When you cut off trivialization, you are talking of making mess of something. I didn't. What I said, and I still stand by it, when you talk of hate speech, it didn't start with Kanu and Shetima. That remains. And in any case, we have constitution in this country. And when you talk of freedom of speech, each section of the constitution gives you a rider. The rider to freedom of speech is that nothing in this section will negate good governance, orderliness, and health of the society. So why are the laws there, Dr. Nkom? Why are the laws there? What we are saying is, when the laws are there, sedition, libel, official secret act 1962, then you apply it instead of this extra judicial, clamping down on people, which will bring stress back into the society. That's my point there. For my brother Kayode, Yeah, well, for your information, Fayose has immunity. That's number one. So Fayose cannot be taken.
At least for now.
At least for now. And nobody is talking of absolute freedom, because where your freedom ends is where another person's freedom starts. But the freedom of speech is entrenched in the Constitution, and Nigeria and anywhere in the world, even the United Nations has that freedom of speech clause. People must be free to talk, to move, and associate. So I believe, it's my own opinion, all of us have opinions. If that law, if that freedom is not to be abridged, I think differently. And that's the reason why First Amendment in the US says nothing in this country, nothing, the Congress shall do nothing to abridge the freedom of speech, freedom of association, and so on and so forth. So that's my approach to that. Why not apply the law? I think I've spoken about that. So I think I'm done.
All right, messages.
All right, this one says, obviously this is a message that has to do with the quick check earlier. We have to take it. No, Dejari voted no. This one says, I don't support it. This has to do with the quick check earlier. Why is none of them talking about decreasing the National Assembly's salary and allowances? They're always finding a way to make people uncomfortable. That's AB from Ashero. Yes, some states with low allocation and small Nigeria will not be able to pay the new minimum wage. They will be owing workers minimum salaries, like some states are presently owing. That's Ademola Lawal from Joe says, no, we are buying in the same market. All right, I don't support it. This is Dele from Itaoshi. And this one says, what brought about hate speeches in Nigeria? There cannot be smoke without fire. In fact, the Nigerian prison should be enlarged because many Nigerians will be jailed if the current status quo remains. The reactions of the leaders to hate speeches further reveal their irresponsibility. Every speech should be x-rayed and treated individually and bring out the learning point in moving the nation forward instead of threat. Kenny Additional from Ashiro sent in that one. Somebody promised to make the country ungovernable in 2011. The government then did not call for his head. Now the same man wants to gag people's opinion. That's Ola. Criminalization of hate speech is okay by me. My fear is the way the federal government is going to go about it. In our constitution entrenched the law of libel. Why don't we invoke that to deal with the situation, rather than a military approach that can bring anarchy to this country? Eddie, I know you are highly appreciated. I'm very proud of you. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
As for Lakiyemi. Prevalent greed, hatred, separatism, militancy, corruption, etc. are symptoms of a decadent society requiring urgent social reconstruction and re-attitudinization, lest it degenerates into utter chaos, hostilities, and warfare. Beyond partisanship and administration, sovereignty, nation building, and governance are eternal responsibilities of all citizens. All right, thank you. Those are the messages we have for now. Okay, let's quickly go to the tweets. Yemi Da Vinci says, okay, hold on. It's still loading. Alright, Yemi Da Vinci says, freedom comes with conditions. Anyone should be held responsible for what they post online. Cardinal Governor has many hateful tweets. Shegun Dewu says, to me, APC was the father of hate speech. Check what they did as opposition party. Alright, Professor Gola says hate speeches will never stop until agitated problems are solved. PNB cannot afford to be a dictator a second time. We are in a democracy. Only a failed and a dictatorial government will want to silence its citizens from talking. PNB must wake up and solve Nigeria's problems. Yemi Da Vinci says, will it be now that you'll be saying hate speeches need to be clamped down? If Nnamdi Kanu have been tried for the sedition in a military court, would he have gotten bail? Alright, Genius Active says hate speeches have been in existence even before this present administration. So try to eradicate it now is not going to work. Okay, and Yemi Da Vinci once again, Nigeria is very skilled in punishing citizens for government mismanagement. If GEJ's government has shut down AIT for election documentary. Okay. Akwede Camille says, let the government expedite action on the creation of the special court to bring this under control, and media should act under the law. These days in the country, criminal defamation, inciting statements, breach of public peace, and false publications are the order of the day. Should hate speech be categorized as terrorism? If yes, why is federal government lacking political will to arrest and prosecute purveyors of hate speeches? Billionaire Ajishafe says hate speech is not terrorism. PMB used the word irresponsible in his broadcast. That to me is a hateful semantic. Iwejobi Yusuf says using the army to look into people on social media is a way of curbing and checking Nigerians ahead of 2019. That's Iwejobi Yusuf. You want to quickly react
to any of those comments?
Yes, special courts. Well, many people have advocated special courts, for so many things. But I think what we need special courts now for is to stop corruption. We have so many corruption cases. We have some, involving the judiciary. We have some involving judges, involving lawyers, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and these cases keep dragging on and dragging on. So if we set up special courts, I think it's for anti-corruption. Most people who commented, appear to have bought into some of our arguments here. That the laws are there. Let the government do it. And well, I believe if the government starts now, clamping people, arresting and what have you, it will exacerbate the situation in the country now. The country is not laughing. And so I think government is trying to make the country laugh. And so it should continue making people laugh, delve into agriculture, give people who don't have jobs, compensation 5,000 naira a month and what have you, employ more graduates. I think that if we do all that, then we have been talking of restructuring. People have been agitating. Look at the meeting, held between Southwest, and the Southeast. They are saying we should restructure, and the government is saying go to the National Assembly, go to this Council of State. These two bodies don't have the right, they don't have the capacity, and they are not even willing to do it. The National Assembly is not willing to do it. So I think if you sit down really and tackle some of these problems, talk to people, let us sit down and talk, devolve powers, I'm sure all these hate speeches will abate, will be minimized.
All right, we go back to the telephone line 08. Yes, we had your call to it, and again we'll move away after this call. Hello, morning.
Good morning, my dear brother in the house.
Morning.
I have to commend your effort thus far.
Your name, sir? Okay, I'm okay. 2 minutes.
Safety is as long as human existence. And any government that is not wanting to be criticized, it is doing the news. Now, when you are tagging people to be hatred or what have you, it means you are not doing what people are expecting from you. I wonder why government do not want to be criticized. You need to be criticized. Either way. And criticism is a weapon for effective change. And if a government is not wanting to change, then it is tagging one seat or the other. Then where are we going to? Can we move forward in this manner? So the government is not wanting people, we wanted to silence the opposition. Don't want them to come on board. Like Mohammed is the father of history in recent times. It will help you. What he has said.
Okay, you are going to hate speech and okay, you are going to hate speech and discuss when you are accusing somebody without the proper doing. Let me quickly answer because we have to we have to let you go. If you check our time, it's just about 6 minutes and we must go. All right, thank you. All right, that will be it for the telephone. And Mr.
Yes, just to react to Daimbo. Well, incidentally, he said he didn't listen. So
no, he says you did not give a clear position,
on
you did not condemn the government move, or where do you stand? That's what he's saying.
No, I did. I said I didn't. I wouldn't support, clamping down stations, people, and the social media. That was well. I want to believe that what you meant really is that yes, some government has to do something. There is no doubt about that. That any government, no responsible government, will fold its arms when hate speech is being spilled out.
Especially if it's
especially
towards
towards sensation and terrorism or whatever. Government is right to take a step. There is no doubt about that. Even the international community, there was a international criminal court, on Rwanda in 1994, and it talked about intent. So the intent was there, and so people were arraigned before the law court. So government has the right to do it, but you have to look at the context in which people are saying this. Look at the situation of the country. Look at what people are saying. And in any case, what about alternative views? Because that's the role. That's the role of the media, of whatever. When you
now, Mr. Now, because of the time, let's look at MOK's position now, because I think it's critical.
Okay.
Is hate speech the same thing as criticism? Because that's what it seems to be saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hate speech is not criticism. It's not hate speech. It depends on the context. For instance, when the president traveled, some people allege that it was wrong to have put the aircraft there for 103 days. If anybody says that, I don't think it's criticism. And that's an alternative view. Somebody must have an alternative view. You cannot sleep and put our heads in one direction. So there is a possibility of government or whoever is in charge to take alternative views as hate speech, and that's what we should avoid.
Okay, let's take the messages.
All right, this one from Ike in Ifo says, how dare Garba Shehu define hate speech as terrorism? Are they not the ones that started it before 2015 election in order to get into power? So why are they lamenting now? For the government to defeat hate speech, the unity of Nigeria must be negotiable. They must open their deaf ears and listen to the agitators. As for the media, no one should tamper with it because they told us what we don't know. Because they tell us what we don't know, what we want to know, and even what we must know, since our leaders are not truthful and cannot be trusted. I'm happy that Dr. Unkom is asking for the closure of radio stations who air. I hope he won't be protected when he abuses the free speech privilege, as Dele Yegule. Okay? And this one says, hate speeches as long as human existence, any government targeting hate speeches is not doing the needful and don't want to be criticized. Are we operating civilian military rule? Lai Mohammed is the fan of hate speech in recent time. MOK Ayodo sent in that. The media and people should be checked in talking anyhow, especially on national issues. Freedom of speech doesn't mean speaking words that will cause confusion in the land or that will heat up the polity. No one is saying people of media should not criticize government in power, but constructively, moderate, and sensible. PMB also agreed that with PDP and APC chairman. Okay, that's Ade. This is not a matter of clamping down on people or breaching freedom of speech. Culprits of hate speeches that will cause problems for Nigeria should be punished accordingly. Yes, government is being weak. Kanu shouldn't have been released in the first place. Felony offense is not bailable. Babawo didn't even get to this extent, but he was jailed for life. If not that God intervened during then he would have been killed. And they sent him that. And this one says, sometimes I wonder why we like to refer to the United States of America as if they have a perfect system of their social and political expressions and expert orientations are the best in the world, when in fact they have one of the worst medium of social orientation in the world. The First Amendment is good, but the freedom of speech can never be absolute. The American system is full of discrepancies, double standards, and segregations. The US abolished jungle justice, yet they masterminded and supported the killings of Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. Oloide Ismail sent in that. Alright, sorry we can't go on. Eddie, we have to take your final word.
Yes, final word. I just believe that in the democracy that we are in now, given the multifaceted problems, besieging the country or besetting the country, I think there is a need for government, in order to attenuate this hate speech, to reduce it tremendously. Let's talk to stakeholders, the Guild of Editors, the National Broadcasting Commission, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, and even the Nigerian Press Council, and other stakeholders to abate it. You can talk to elders in the southeast, in the northeast, and northwest, and what have you. To Jojo is better than to Wowo because it gets
All right, yes, I don't think for any circumstances living together in peace should be negotiable.
No, it's not.
I don't think so. We must thank you, Mr. Eddie Aina, for
Welcome.
doing justice to the program this morning. And of course, so everybody out there, those who listen patiently, those who contributed, yes, we say thank you. Dele Ayodo is my name. I say God bless you all. God bless Nigeria and God bless Rock City.
Thank you so much for joining us. Join us again tomorrow. I am Toby Joseph. Have a wonderful day.